I've been following Jordan Peterson's Carnivore diet for 3 weeks now, and the results are in. I'm going to compare my experience on the diet with his claims, starting with what I consider to be his most impressive benefit.
I lost 7 pounds every month for 7 months.
Jordan was still eating greens at this point, but my experience on the carnivore diet was even more impressive. I started off at 202 pounds and 11% body fat, and within 3 days I dropped 3 pounds. By the end of the diet, I lost 6.5 pounds and was down 2.5% body fat. These results exceeded my most optimistic expectations, and you might think that they came from eating less food, because as Jordan said,
I'm nowhere near as hungry as I used to be. My appetite's probably fallen by 70%.
For me, this definitely was not the case. I started tracking my calories not to restrict my diet, but just out of curiosity about my appetite, and I found that on average, I was eating over 4,000 calories a day. At some dinners alone, I would have over 2,500 calories. What's interesting is that on a typical diet, if I eat even close to 1,000 calories, I'm glued to my chair for the next hour. Whereas on the carnivore diet, I could eat over 2,500 calories and be up and back at work within a minute. I've never felt as good after a meal as I did when eating nothing but meat. With my weight loss, I would have definitely expected to lose a significant amount of strength, but according to Jordan,
I'm stronger, I can swim better, and I've actually gained musculature.
I tested my strength, and despite the weight loss, my combined 1 rep max actually increased by 5 pounds. Since I maintained the same workout regimen that I did before starting the diet, and since I actually lost weight, the only other culprit that I can think of for the strength maintenance would be sleep.
I can sleep 6 hours a night, no problem. I wake up in the morning, I'm awake.
On a typical diet, I would sleep for 8.5 hours and then wake up in a mad dash to get to work before my first meeting. But on a carnivore diet, I can sleep for 6 hours and have way more energy than if I slept for 8.5, 9 hours on a typical diet. The hardest part of this diet, without a doubt, is the discipline that it takes to maintain. But as Dr. Peterson said,
after I stopped eating carbohydrates for a month, the carbohydrate cravings went away.
The first 2.5 weeks of this diet were a serious test to my willpower. And at that point, I decided that I needed a vacation. But by the end of the 3rd week, I honestly felt like I could keep going forever. The carb cravings completely diminished, so booking the vacation might not have been the smartest move that I ever made.
I'm certainly intellectually at my best at the moment.
I run my life in 3-week sprints. During each sprint, there's a series of tasks that are assigned, and each task has a score. At the end of the sprint, I count the total score that was accomplished. Now, when I implemented a carnivore diet, I got over twice as much done as I did over the previous sprint. And I know this is far from the perfect measure of my intellect, but it's all that I got. For me, losing these benefits would be the #1 thing preventing me from stopping the diet, other than something that Jordan mentioned to Joe.
What's fascinating to me is I haven't heard any negative stories about people doing this.
Well, I have a negative story. The reaction to eating what we weren't supposed to was absolutely catastrophic.
What was it doing to you?
I didn't sleep that month. I didn't sleep for 25 days.
The last time I was this scared for the future, I was coming back from a 3-month trip to Europe with no job, no money, and no home. But fortunately, both of these situations turned out better than you might think. After 3 weeks of the diet, I immediately ate some carbs and hopped on a plane to Spain, and slept for probably half the trip. After that, I spent 10 days in hostel beds and had absolutely no problem sleeping.
How much nutrients are you getting?
I'm getting a little cramping in my toes from time to time.
By day 12, I would wake up in the middle of the night with excruciating cramps in my left calf and hamstring. These cramps continued for 10 days after quitting the diet. The most important question that Joe had for Jordan was whether or not he got blood work.
I want you to get your blood tested because I think if...
It'd be pretty funny if it was in good shape.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, it would be pretty funny if the results were good. And unfortunately for me, this was the negative that Joe was asking about. As you might imagine, my blood sugar levels fell and my cholesterol levels rose, but my bad cholesterol rose almost 3 times as much as my good cholesterol. And this wasn't even the most shocking part. What surprised me most was that my testosterone actually dropped by 22%. I thought for sure that my weight loss, my confidence, my strength maintenance all came from higher testosterone levels due to this diet, but apparently I was wrong. These weren't the results I was hoping for or expecting, but I guess that's why I took these tests to begin with. All that being said, the benefits that Jordan and his daughter Mikhaila received from this diet extend far beyond what I mentioned in this video.
I'm not anxious, I'm not depressed, I don't have psoriasis. My legs were numb on the sides, that's gone, and my gum disease is gone.
Since I don't have any of these health concerns, I really can't comment on this. What I can say is that I had more energy, more clarity of mind, more confidence that I've had in maybe my entire life, which really compels me to rationalize some of the negatives of this diet. Maybe the cramps could have been a result of not stretching enough or not hydrating properly. Maybe the rising cholesterol levels would have tapered off and stopped, and maybe high cholesterol isn't even as bad as we originally thought that it was. Sure, my testosterone plummeted, but maybe my estrogen also plummeted. Unfortunately, I didn't test for that in the beginning. But the results are what they are, whether you or I like them or not. So would I recommend a carnivore diet? That's hard to say. On one hand, I felt like I had superpowers, and on the other, I felt like leg cramps were my kryptonite. I got the best body composition I've ever had in my entire life, but I've also had the lowest testosterone levels I've had since probably puberty and the highest cholesterol levels I've had since probably birth. So to answer the question, yes, I would recommend trying it, especially if you have a health condition that you can't get rid of otherwise. Just make sure that you take all of the proper precautions before and during to make sure that you're staying healthy throughout the process. I myself would try it again, but for now, I feel obligated to give vegans a fair trial. My biggest hesitation with starting a vegan diet was always thinking that it might lower my testosterone and increase my estrogen. However, it seems that a carnivore diet already did that, so I don't have nearly as much reluctance to try this diet anymore. Starting next Monday, I'm going to implement a vegan diet and test all the same metrics I tested in the carnivore diet. But for now, thanks for watching, and thank God I'm still alive.